Welcome to the Choosing Happiness podcast with me, your host, Rüdrani Devi, the Happiness Lady. In these conversations, we will be discussing an uncommon way to find joy in your life with weekly special guests. Did you know you could choose your happy? Won't you come and play and discover how these magical tools could work for you? Let's do this.
Good.
Hey, we are live, y'all. Me from Nashville, Tennessee, Rüdrani Devi, the Happiness Lady. You heard me right. Yeah, this is why it's called the Choosing Happiness podcast. And it is just a choice, right? And today I have three very special guests. Of course, my gaggle, the Alyssa Falk.
The Alyssa.
That's right. I have the handsome Troy, oh my goddess, Aldanmaz. I didn't ask how to pronounce it.
Yeah, it's like Aldanmaz. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for joining us. And kind of late notice, I sort of put him on the spot, right? And then we have, the reason why we are all here. Thank you so much, Betsy McLoughin. She is a CF, Certified Facilitator of Access Consciousness Extraordinaire. We've been playing together since the pandemic. Oh, did I say that out loud? Since early 2020, she actually reached out to me and I got to be on her podcast, and we've danced on each other's podcasts a few times. And now she has a very special invitation to a teleseries that I am so honored to be a part of, called Pain to Possibilities. Is now the time to find your strength. So without further ado, Miss Betsy, could you tell the folks a little bit about you and then what inspired you to create this topic, this teleseries? And I'm not the only one invited, y'all. She's going to tell you a little bit more. So you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. I was inspired for this whole series of conversations with my team, and how people were talking a lot about whether they were having physical pain, emotional pain, and the withdrawing that we tend to do, withdrawing to ourselves. And then there's the whole piece of shame, regret, guilt that you're not doing things, all the stuff. And it's like, all right, so we started talking about how do you go from that to finding your strength? And from that was a beautiful conversation. And then my how ideas come in, and it was just like, oh, what if I talk to some folks who that inspire me and have shown so much strength? And so it's like, okay. And it just exploded into this whole creation. So that's how it started.
But you have 6 other colleagues doing these calls for you. And so, I'm honored because, I admire you and these other 5 so much.
Thank you.
And they all have their stories, I'm sure. I know a little bit about them. I think I've actually interviewed everybody that's going to be asked. So, you know what? I'm kind of curious to know what the peanut gallery thinks. Miss Alyssa and Troy over here. Representing not us. When you think of is now the time to find your strength. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you, pain to possibilities? Or do you have an example or a question? Don't everybody speak at once, please.
Okay. Would you like to?
Just one of you at a time.
Okay.
Go.
Would you like to go, Alyssa?
Sure. I think what popped for me was when you were doing your little bit of a description there, and how it doesn't have to be like a traumatic experience. Like, I was like, oh crap, I did that just this morning of course I have wonderful tools from Access Consciousness to get me out of it. And still acknowledging where, if I didn't have these tools, how much down the rabbit hole I would have gone and created crap within my business. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, cute humanoid turning a wrongness into, or strongness into wrongness. But I was like, how am I going to handle all these clients? Like, more people keep coming. Who's going to drop off? Why do you know? And then it's like, and then I'm like, oh my God, stop, Alyssa. Like everything is flowing and creating, and like nobody's mad at me yet.
Right now.
And I'm still creating this circle of like where we get caught in this tornado to create pain instead of being like, okay, and just rolling off of a COP with all of you. I was like, okay, every time I go, oh my gosh, this is a problem. I'm like, okay, this isn't a problem. What's the possibility here? What am I aware of? And that ease that it creates. So yeah, it's always like, right, stopping and acknowledging where you are, and you don't have to chase that little rabbit down the hole. I mean, you can if you want to. I did it for a long time, but it's not creating. So, and then the other thing was like, I don't know why, but Troy kept popping. So I want to know what Troy's story is of where his pain is.
Before you go any further, Miss Alice in Wonderland, who doesn't like going down the rabbit hole, and all the things. It's so funny because most people, you know, when you tell them how busy you are and how you can't juggle all your things, they want to fucking kill you. Because they're like, why isn't my life not like that? So please acknowledge, number one, that all these people want you.
Yeah.
Right? And they wouldn't be coming to you if they weren't aware of your talents and abilities. So everywhere where you've not been willing to acknowledge those, can we just pod and pocket now?
Yes.
Thank you. Battle Line, Pod and Pocket Shorts, Boys, Pubids, and Beyonds. And that little weird thing I just did at the end there, that's called a clearing statement. And if you want to know more about that, you can find it on YouTube, www.theclearingstatement.com. Little public announcement for you. And then Dr. Dane here, he's the co-founder of Access Consciousness that Alyssa mentioned earlier. Gary Douglas, the founder, and Simone Middlesis is also explaining it to him, the clearing statement. So by all means, don't look it up. You know, if you want ease in your world, please don't look it up. And yeah, Troy, I'm very curious too, hon. What's up?
Actually, it's like so like funny when you talk about like pain and possibilities. I just remember like how I actually find access, and actually because I was a lot of in pain, I was like constantly, like I was in medical school, like I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was like in so much stress, and I was just like looking to like pass my exams. And in the way it works in like where I was going to school, like you either pass in 1 year or you just fail and you need to repeat the whole year one more time.
Wow.
And
ouch.
Yeah.
That is painful. Just hearing it's painful.
And like for me, like actually like before that in my life, I like everything was for me was like very ease. Like I didn't have like anything that really challenged me. And like when I actually just come across this like incredible, like for me, like it was like really painful and was stressful. I was actually I will start asking questions, not like, I was just looking like for a different possibility, because I knew something else was possible, but I was not actually like, I didn't like know what was that. And I just like actually remember like one day I was just like for me what that it was like was God. I was like, God, please help me. Like, I don't know like what to do. Can you just like do something, or just like send me something? And
Knock me over the head, God. I'm not getting
it. And actually like my mom just like find Access Consciousness and the tools.
Oh,
and
now I want to kill you.
Yeah.
His mom, y'all. His mom, right? How many of us wish our moms had been so cool that they would have said, hey, you should try this out? Are you sure not joining a cult? Anyway, I digress. Please go on.
I just want Troy to laugh more.
I know, right?
I love his laugh.
That is a great laugh. You're a joy bomb. That's for shizzle. And not hard to look at either, by the way. So, you know, you guys that are listening on audio platforms, you may want to check this out on the YouTube. I'm just saying. All right. Didn't mean to interrupt you yet again, but
thank you. And like for me, like when she just like she the first tool actually she introduced me was bars, and she told me like I learned something that called bars, and she just like run my bars, and like every time like I don't even actually like remember that times, but like only thing I knew, like every time she ran my bars, like that, like I was just like constantly in a loop in my head, like I was thinking like so intensely, like it just that starts to like break, like and I was not like thinking that much, I was not like worrying that much, and like for me, like just like having that like lightness and like having that like peace in my world was actually like undeniable. And like when I look at it right now, it's just like so beautiful, like to actually, for me, it's having like tools that works, because before that, like anything I tried, I was just like looking everybody around me like as a reference point, and like what they are choosing in their life.
Sure.
And I was like trying to apply that to my life, but it was actually not working. And yeah, like I think I'm just like very, very grateful for the tools of Access Consciousness because of that, because it's not like trying to give you and right answers, but it's actually asking you questions and to find what is true for you. Yeah, and like yeah, that's the first thing just like popped when you were saying like pain and possibilities, because actually if I didn't have that, like for me, it's like personally, if I didn't have that pain, I know like I wouldn't look for different possibilities in life. So yeah.
I love it. And thank you, Alyssa, for scrolling along the bottom more information about the bars. You pulled that out of my head, because some of you may have never even heard of access bars, and that's the first modality or the first class, I suppose, on some level. If you're trying to, journey this, I know there's something better. I know that, I can find my strength somewhere within this crazy, chaotic world. Well, I'm trying to plagiarize or be like everyone else around me, and it's just not working. There's got to be something greater. And so thank you for bringing that piece up. And if you guys want to know more, it's right there across the bottom of the screen. So by all means, don't look into that either.
So that brings me to a new question that popped as Troy said that. And maybe Betsy, you have some more awareness around this because you created the class, but why do we create pain to create possibilities?
And I'm sure that will be something that we explore and dive into. And the first thing that came to mind when you asked that question is, how many of us feel like we have to have a challenge or something to overcome? And if it's too easy, we, like somewhere along the line, and you talked earlier about like mimicking other people, like somewhere along the line, did we buy that has to be our life, and so if we didn't choose things to be hard, I wonder how many things that we've looked at that we thought and decided were painful were actually possibilities that maybe we were running away from, things we didn't want to know or deal with. And then when we turn the knob just a little bit and look at it differently, we're like, oh, what are the opportunities here? What are the possibilities where before we had decided it was, awful and horrible and painful and all the things that we've decided. So
I love the way you put that so eloquently. I mean, I heard just recently and I don't know if you were on the call or not, Betsy, but recently Dane was talking about, don't be afraid to push people's buttons. I'm actually taking it down a notch, what he had said. But because a lot of times when we're complacent, we don't actually have the motivation, I'm just going to put that word in quotes, to even look outside of that to see if there is something greater. I mean, with great big problems come great big solutions. When they're little tiny problems, you might just bitch about them a little bit and be like, well, somebody else will take care of it. Sometimes it takes an explosion, and I mean literally an explosion, before people go, oh, what the fuck is going on here? I didn't realize that it was so disruptive, or whatever it is, chaotic, and what else is possible here? How can I be involved? And I know for me personally, just a little story where when I got really hurt in India and I was told I'd never walk again. I know that's not a little story, but the point is little. Everyone told me I would never walk again. And I was like, okay, now I know what my mission is, because, all of a sudden I had this giant challenge. Giant. It took me over a year and a half before I could even get to the floor and get back up. And I remember the first time that happened, I just wept, because I never thought I'd be able to bend my leg in a way to get, I was afraid if I went to the floor, I would never get up. I'd be rolling around trying to find a couch to pull myself up or something. And it was the weirdest thing. So the first time I was actually able, which I did at PT, physical therapy, they had me get down and they always had to pull me up. And I finally found a way where I could do it. And it was this little, it sounds like nothing, it's a little incremental thing. But if I hadn't been challenged with, oh, she probably will never walk again. And I'm a showboater. I actually ran the Boston Marathon 3 or 4 months after being released by my doctor. Yeah, because I'd been training for it. But, I think that's what you're speaking of, Betsy. And that's actually physical pain. But how much of us do mental masturbation and create all kinds of mental pain? Like Alyssa this morning, I'm just going to call you out. That's called, mental masturbation in my interesting point of view. We kept trying to talk to each other and she would call me and I'd be on the phone and then I would reach out to her. And it was like this, we still haven't connected except for now. But that's how it is. I know how popular she be. And, and I'm actually thrilled that so many people are finally recognizing who you be. And wouldn't you say that, that is your strength? Just saying.
Yes, and do you see my avoidance to it too?
Yeah, I saw that. It's talking to me. Wait, hold on. She must be talking to somebody else.
Yeah, she's talking.
Here's the thing that I've noticed: a lot of times when something's too easy for us, we don't give it any kudos.
Yep.
Hey, if it's so easy, it can't be worth anything. It couldn't be valuable. I can't possibly charge for it. And yet you're so overwhelmed, you can't even acknowledge the universe clobbering you over the head and saying, hey, bitch, look, all these people want you. They're pulling on you, and you're not even acknowledging it. Do you want us to take all this away?
No, I wouldn't say that I'm not acknowledging it.
No.
I'm going to come back at you.
I know, right?
I am acknowledging it, and at the same time, I can see where I would be functioning. And it's still my trigger to go that way, but I'm not responding to the triggers like I used to.
Nice.
What would you have done in the past? I'm just curious. How did you handle things like that in the past?
Oh, I'd be on the floor crying. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, cool.
Instead of just saying, okay, well, what needs to be done? I always can hear Dane in my head going, just take one step.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm such if anything, that's one of my biggest tools that I go is okay, just take one step. What else is possible?
Yeah.
And then just being okay, well, Rue's calling right now, so I better answer the phone. I guess that is, that's my one step. Or, there's just little pieces that for me play into, okay, what's that one step? What's the next possibility here? And I have not been looking at it as these are problems, but I catch that little, those little voices that we've hired to
shut up.
Well, and the question that popped as you were talking is one of the things that I will ask myself when I go to that space, if this wasn't overwhelming, then what am I aware of here? Or what can I change so that it isn't overwhelming, right? Because sometimes that can be a default that I go to, oh my God, I can't do it all. It's all overwhelming. And, oh, poor, pitiful me. And then it's wait a minute, hold on. So if it wasn't that, what could it be? And what am I aware of here? And then that just shifts the focus and the energies and everything.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's so funny. I could never understand why people would get so terrified when they had to talk to people or, get in front of a crowd of people, because I don't have that gene that makes me, y'all can tell I don't like to talk at all.
No,
I have
pull it out of you.
Right. I mean, even when, you know, someone is, well, like for example, Gary Douglas is giving me a wedgie, and I just roll with it. I'm like, okay, I'm not married to you. I hear what you're saying. Da 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 da. I don't go into this space of, oh my gosh, he's making me wrong. Because here's what I know about Gary. He doesn't care if he hurts your feelings, but he's not willing to watch you be Alice in Wonderland and go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You know, not on his watch. If you're going to show up for a class, he's going to give it to you straight. But I know what you mean, Betsy. It's like I have my things, you know, or whatever it is, but I teach Right Voice for You. And so I would see it over and over again where people didn't want to step into all of them because they didn't think they could be received. And, you know, what Alyssa was saying earlier, what if your wrongness was actually your strongness? What if that vulnerability was actually so irresistible that that's what drew people in, you know? So anyway, that's what it brought up for me. Troy, where are you going?
Yeah, I was like, where'd Troy go?
Yeah, I was just like, yeah.
Feel his mind thinking. What's up in your world, babe?
Yeah, I was just like, actually, because it's so funny, I had like the same thing like this morning, like with overwhelming. And like, I was just like looking at, and like one of the tools I really enjoy using, like when I feel like there's like so much things has to be handled, like the 10-second increment tool.
Mm-hmm.
And just like asking like, if I have 10 seconds, and the way it works is like, maybe Betsy and Rüdrani may want to just like explore it more, but like the way I use it is like, if I had 10 seconds to live the rest of my life, what would I choose? And like for me, that's like the energy of like what is like priority for me right now. And it's just like so interesting that every time I actually just make that choice and ask that question and be willing to be more present, like everything just like start to change. And like I'm like, oh, actually I don't have like that much need to do, or I just like take one step, as like Alyssa was talking, and just like another step, and everything start to just like change. And yeah,
it's like letting go of the pressure valve, isn't it?
Yeah.
You think about the rest of your life, you're thinking about 10 seconds. Like, oh, I can handle 10 seconds. Oh, here's another 10 seconds. Okay, here's another 10 seconds.
I love that.
Yeah,
Releasing some of the pressure from the, you know, from the pressure cooker.
And like, I've always looked at it, the 10 seconds. I'm getting so many downloads about 10 seconds, but I always looked at it, you know, how the example is like Gary always being like, okay, you have 10 seconds to live. What are you going to choose? And then everybody freezes and he's like, you're dead. And I'm like,
I know.
I wanted to choose something different.
But I
love that you said that. I love it because I have a tickety talk where I do the same thing. I'm like, you got Texas to live the rest of your life. What you going to choose? You dead. And so Alyssa and I are constantly going, you dead. You know, like and it lightens our load too when we're getting into overwhelm, which isn't real, by the way. You know, it's amazing how much significance we place on all the stuff from this reality. And it really has nothing to do with you. I mean, what if you were just so psychic that you're just picking up on everybody else's points of view of what they go through when they're going through this overwhelm or whatever it is? But
true story.
Just saying.
True story. What was that you were scrolling on the bottom a minute ago about? Let's talk about it, Miss Alyssa.
Oh,
the energy of Ruse Clarity Night, which is coming up on the 15th.
Oh, goodness.
I
got luck going on the 15th, don't I? I got Betsy and me on the 15th.
It's called Let's Talk About It. So that was the energy that was really just coming up of, I mean, come with all your questions and let's talk about it. Because
love it.
Everything's up, and what's up in your world is not just your world. So
it's kind of a spinoff of, you know, what if the energy of you just walking into a room changed everything, and you being willing to be that, you know, instead of trying to be what everybody else wants you to be. Yes, ma'am.
I have a great example of people just walking into the room. I love like when you say that and people like actually changing who they are. Troy, I've played with Troy on other gaggles and creations. But having him walk into the room in Nashville at COP, like such an energy change. And like just him being him, like when he walked in, my energy like, I don't know what it was, but just gravitated towards him.
Yeah.
And then after COP, like we were just standing there talking, and like him just putting his hand on my back, like my whole world melted. So
Oh,
acknowledge Troy, and
everybody acknowledge Troy. Woo! The crowd goes wild. No, it's true story. Because Troy, the very first day, you were one of the first questions, and to Gary Douglas. And let me just tell you, everything in Access is kind of like acronyms. We, because I don't know, because we have these long things that sound like we're auctioneers, and so we just shorten everything. So COP stands, and those of you in Access know what I'm talking about. So COP stands for Choice of Possibilities, and Troy chose to be there in Nashville in person. And truly, you came up, you were maybe the second or third question, and the room got quiet and everybody was looking at you. Now, if that's not pulling energy or changing the room just by walking into it, I'm sure that's not what it was, but it was. Please acknowledge, as we say. Francesca Ferrantini coined that comment. She's Italian. She goes, I like it when we are acknowledging blah, 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 because we know it's not a real word, but in Access, we have adopted it as a real word. So please acknowledge, Troy, that you are a creator of magnitude and you know how to pull the energy, dude.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So anything else we want to say about Pain to Possibilities and this invitation? Do you want to perhaps tell our peeps who else is going to be joining you?
Yes, ma'am. So we have the wonderful Rüdrani as the first guest, and then we have take a bow. And then we also have Dr. Lisa Cooney, Dr. Anthony Mattis. Who else do we have? Desiree Dumond. We also have, I should have pulled this up. This is all going from memory.
Heather?
Thank you. Heather Nichols and
Brendan Watt.
So we have a really great lineup and each one will have their own time with me. And so it starts the 15th of November, and the last call is December 6th. And we would love for you to come join the calls, ask your questions. We also have a private Telegram chat group that we can stay in touch in between the calls, and who knows where we'll go and what we'll explore. I'm really, really excited. And I would, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And what else is possible for all of us?
And if you feel like
conversation.
Yeah. And these conversations can go anywhere, like you said. And if you feel like you got a lobotomy during the conversation and it's over and you're like, what happened? You get recordings, y'all. And like Beth said, you've got this Telegram chat where we can all stay connected. And if any questions come up afterwards, we'll all support each other. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And we don't, I'm sure we'll talk about, pain with money, pain with bodies, pain with, illnesses, like relationships. I'm sure it'll go all over the place. So, let's explore and see what we can discover that is actually our strength, and where can we change anything that we may have been limiting ourselves into opportunities and possibilities, and acknowledging our strength. And we've talked quite a bit about a lot of these things today, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I can hardly wait. Well, all right, y'all.
For saying yes, and thank you for this beautiful conversation, and thank you, Troy and Alyssa, for joining. That was a very nice surprise.
and Betsy, I want to thank you for creating this now and what it will create in the future, because I can perceive when I lean into the energy of the whispers of all of this, how many lives it will change, whether, I don't know if you're going to put it in your shop later or not.
Yeah.
Those that choose it now, those that choose it in the future, this kind of lives on in infamy, not to make it significant. I would never do that, ever. So if it feels light for you guys, come play with us. And all those other CFs that she mentioned, I mean, they are like, not to make it significant. They're cream of the crop, man. I've gotten to play with all of them. Betsy and I have, and I'm probably Troy and Alyssa have dabbled with a few of those as well. And they're just, I love to hear what everyone's take is and whatever energy comes up. So
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to it. And I get to tip it off with, we get to be the first two, Betsy. Thank you.
Yay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, all right. then.
I just want to end with one question since this is the choosing happiness and it doesn't need an answer, but what popped was, what if pain was possibilities and what happiness can you choose now?
Love it.
Oh my goddess. You know what, girl?
Mic drop. Okay.
I got to give you kudos. That was for you, girl.
Thank
All
you.
right, you guys, if you liked what you heard, please share this video with others. You know, click the whatever it is, like button down there, all the things, subscribe. And yeah, and hopefully you'll come join us. We'll have all the deets underneath. So we'll make it nice and easy for you. Thanks again, you guys.
Thanks so much.
you.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thanks.
Mm.
Bye.
Thank you so much for choosing happiness. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, share, and give us a like. And if you want more happy, subscribe to the Choosing Happiness membership where you can play directly with me, Rüdrani Devi, the happiness lady. How does it get any better than that?